Lou Reed, very private person, doesn't always let everybody into his circle. You got in. Why?
Very early on. Well, I think because this was 72, Lou was not that well known. None of them were so well known. David was breaking out, and of course, he was going to produce the Transformer album with his guitarist, Mick Ronson, which of course they did, and to this day it's Lou's best-selling album. And he, maybe I met him after, Lou hadn't been over long, and I met him briefly with David, and then the night of the, what are the implications of that, Brian? Brian, what are the implications of this particular image?
Which image are you pointing at?
I'm talking about the image over there that just showed up.
The ping pong paddle and the blushing cheeks?
Exactly.
It's called Bad Girl.
Well, I would think so.
It was done as an homage to Mick Rock.
Well, I don't, it does look remarkably like me, I would say.
Especially
Around the buttocks.
Your butt hasn't fallen, darling.
Well, you could tell her she can come home with me if she likes. I'll hide her in the
She's
suitcase.
also able to shoot the ping pong ball out.
I think she's in.
You're distracting Mick with this thought away.
No. Look away, Mick. Look away.
No, I'm too young for that sort of stuff. Lou was the most complex person I ever knew. He was a very interesting character. But going in, I mean, I knew his work from the Velvet Underground, even though not so many people did back then. And he, I think I saw him very much in the light of a lot of, I was studying modern languages and literature at Cambridge. I studied a lot of the more interesting poet, or the movements, the symbolist poets in France, like Baudelaire, Rimbaud, Nerval, Gautier, Verlaine, or whatever, and the English romantics, Byron, Shelley, Keats, Coleridge, and also the American beats. And the one thing they all had in common was they were all overloaded with stimulants. So I got that connection with rock and roll.
You know, with all the things that you've done, one of the things that, of course, stands out for a lot of people from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
No, I do a great headstand still. 10 minutes every day still.
Has to be what I'm going to turn over to just in the corner up here, and that is the Queen picture.
Well, but in the beginning was Sid Barrett. That was the first, if you like, significant session I did as it turned out. And of course I've done books on Sid, and Sid is mythological because he started Pink Floyd and then he didn't want to deal with it anymore. So he was always called like a mad genius.
But you had to correct me if I'm wrong, you had to recreate this picture, or?
No, that was the picture I took the day I went over.
That was the one.
What?
Queen.
Oh, the Queen.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Sid Barrett.
I'm talking about Queen.
I don't know, maybe I want to talk about Sid. Anyway, yeah, no, it wasn't it was an echo of a still photograph of Marlene Dietrich on the set of the movie Shanghai Express. And well, I loved it. I remember showing it to Freddie, and he was well into it. I think the others weren't at first. We did shoot the White Session too, which ended up on the gatefold, but it was definitely a reference. The difference was she was a master of posing. These guys, I had shot them, it was only the second time they'd been in the studio, and both times were with me. And the other thing was, there was 4, and these 4 were like in and out of the mirror the whole session, where she'd get herself ready, and that would be it. But the other thing was, I hooded the lighting. If you see the Marilyn shots, you can see the whites of her eyes. But I rocked it out a bit by pushing the light back a bit. But that wasn't so easy, to get all four heads in place, I think, I don't know, I mean, I could do anything. I mean, and I did back then.
And not a lot of people can even touch or try to recreate what you have done now. I don't want to take too much more time of yours. And no, here's the reason why is because if I do, we're never going to leave here because I love all the stories. But I think the one important thing is, how do you want your career to be remembered when we are looking at these pictures still another 100 years from now, another 200 years from now, because you were able to make this staple point for rock and roll history?
Well, you know, it's not like I set out to do that. I followed my, I suppose you might say I followed my intuition. I gravitated towards certain characters, and those are the ones that I have in-depth collections of, and they're probably the ones that people talk about me taking the definitive iconic images of. Like David, like Lou, like Iggy, like Queen, like Sid Barrett, like Debbie Harry, like Rocky Horror. Those are the pictures you know from Rocky Horror. And actually, the last time I was in Toronto was 2 years ago to shoot the remake they were doing here in Toronto. And I went through Pearson Airport, and it's a nightmare. So I'm glad I'm traveling through the worst airport, bar none, with competition only from the Charles de Gaulle airport in Paris, which is also a bloody nightmare. However, the beauty of Toronto is if you're just popping up and down from New York, you can go to Porter. And I'm a big fan of Porter because Porter's streamlined, unlike Pearson. So there is a way in and out of Toronto comfortably if you're living in New York.